The clock struck 2 in the dead of night, the cold digital blue light cutting through the pitch-black master bedroom like a blade. The entire high-end Riverview apartment was drowned in deep silence, save for the faint rustling sounds of fabric shifting and quiet footsteps coming from the edge of the bed. The noise was subtle, almost imperceptible to ordinary people, but after 4 years of intimate cohabitation and countless late nights of silent observation, I could recognize Giselle's every tiny movement with my eyes closed. I am the female lead of this 4-year misplaced emotional relationship, and for 4 full years, I've been trapped in the most absurd, humiliating, and reversed emotional game of my life. My name is Blair Voss, and I was once the proud, unyielding, and beloved girlfriend of Cale Rhodes, the man who would later become the biggest villain, who completely reversed our identities, betrayed my deep love, and forced me into a 4-year emotional prison of self-deception and compromise. 4 years ago, Cale was mine entirely. He was passionate, clingy, obsessive, and even hysterical to the point of self-destruction when he lost his temper. He loved me fiercely, feared losing me crazily, and would cry, argue, and break things to keep me by his side whenever there was a rift between us. Back then, I was the dominant one in the relationship, the one being cherished, chased, and tolerated. I was the center of his world, and he was just a restless, impulsive boy who clung to my love for survival. But everything slowly and insidiously changed because of Giselle, my so-called best friend of 7 years, the hidden core villain of this story, who specialized in emotional infiltration and identity displacement. Giselle had always lived in my shadow since adolescence. She was inferior, gentle, and docile, always watching me enjoy the spotlight, envying my confident personality, and coveting the passionate love Cale gave me. She never competed with me openly, never quarreled or confronted me directly. Instead, she chose the most insidious way to infiltrate my relationship: silent companionship, long-term emotional parasitism, and gradual identity substitution. While I was with Cale, enjoying his passionate love and occasionally losing my temper and being willful, Giselle was always there to comfort him when he was upset, listen to his grievances when I neglected him, and tolerate his negative emotions when I was tired of his hysteria. Day after day, year after year, she slowly erased his extreme edges, calmed his frantic obsession, and replaced his impulsive love with gentle companionship. And Cale, who was once my frantic lover, gradually completed the most terrifying identity reversal in love. He transformed from my hysterical, possessive boyfriend into Giselle's most rational, considerate, irreplaceable soul confidant. Tonight was the 4-year anniversary of this subtle and cruel identity displacement. It was also the night I completely woke up from my 4-year self-deceiving dream and decided to tear apart all false emotions, break the misplaced emotional bouillie, and force the 2 betrayers who stole my love and identity into eternal, fire-fueled regret. The rustling movements beside the bed grew clearer, that I woke up from my shallow midnight sleep, my consciousness instantly sober without any trace of drowsiness. I did not open my eyes immediately, nor did I make any sound, quietly perceiving every move of Giselle in the darkness. She had just returned from a late-night outing with Cale. I did not know where they had gone, what they had talked about, or how many intimate moments they had shared in the dead of night. I only knew that every time she came back from being alone with Cale these days, her brows were always tightly locked with tension and unease, a subtle nervousness I knew all too well. That tension was not guilt towards me, her best friend. It was the unease of a thief who had occupied someone else's treasure, the panic of fearing that the perfect false balance she had maintained for years would collapse overnight, the anxiety of worrying that the misplaced intimate relationship between her and Cale would be exposed and end completely. I slowly propped myself up and sat upright on the soft king-size bed. The thin silk quilt slid down my chest naturally, revealing a section of fair skin under the cold nightlight. My voice was low, soft, and calm, without anger, accusation, or grievance, sounding like the most gentle and understanding partner in the world. "You're back. Did you two fight?" The bedroom fell into a dead silence in an instant. Giselle's body froze completely by the bedside, her movements of tidying her coat stagnating midair. She stood straight in the dim nightlight, her figure thin and delicate, but her heart was filled with hidden guilt and fluster that no one knew. After a long silence that lasted nearly 10 seconds, she slowly nodded her head, the movement extremely reluctant and stiff, like a child who had done something wrong and was forced to admit her mistake. I bent my legs, got out of bed barefoot, and walked gently towards her. The temperature of the midnight floor was cold, but my heart was colder than the endless midnight frost. For 4 years, I had been playing this self-deceiving, comforting game with myself and with them. I had been the outsider in my own love relationship, the bystander who watched my boyfriend and best friend become sole confidants, yet still pretended to be the tolerant and generous master of the relationship. I raised my hand slightly, gently smoothing the wrinkled corner of her coat, my tone soft and soothing, perfectly playing the role of a considerate best friend and gentle lover. He's still young, Giselle. He's just been spoiled. He's throwing a petty tantrum, nothing serious. I knew exactly what their quarrel was about. I knew every contradiction, every tacit understanding, every emotional fluctuation between them better than anyone else. After 4 years of observation and forbearance, I had long seen through all their hidden intimacy and false estrangement. Cale was no longer the boy who lost his mind for me. All his willfulness, all his tantrums, all his negative emotions were now only revealed to Giselle. And all his rationality, all his gentleness, all his thoughtfulness were exclusively given to her. As for me, the original owner of his love, I was left with only his perfunctory politeness, distant calm, and endless emotional cold violence. I continued to comfort her in a gentle and unhurried tone, every word sounding like sincere persuasion, but every sentence was a cold irony directed at the misplaced emotions of the three of us. Just buy him that vintage watch he's been rambling about for months, or get him some new gaming gear tomorrow. He'll calm down soon, and he'll figure it out. He never holds grudges against the people he cares about. The words "people he cares about" were the most piercing joke in this 4-year relationship. Once, the person he cared about was only me. Now, the only person who could affect his emotions, make him lose his temper, and make him reconcile actively was Giselle. I had long been excluded from his emotional core, reduced to a nominal girlfriend, a decorative identity in his life. Giselle slowly raised her head, her bright eyes filled with countless unspeakable emotions, guilt, fluster, hesitation, hidden joy, and subtle superiority. She stared straight at my calm and gentle face, seemingly wanting to see a trace of grievance, anger, or jealousy in my eyes, wanting to confirm that I was still the foolish, unaware best friend she could easily control. But she found nothing. My eyes were clear, calm, and unwavering, without the slightest emotional fluctuation. I did not argue, did not question, did not cry or make trouble. I just quietly tolerated their intimate quarrels, comforted her unease, and arranged reconciliation methods for their misplaced relationship like an outsider. After staring at me for a long time, she finally said nothing. All her excuses, all her tentative explanations, all her guilty prevarications were swallowed back into her throat. She could not find any flaws in my gentle and tolerant disguise, so she could only remain silent, letting the false peace continue to be maintained. I turned around calmly, lay back on the soft bed again, covered the quilt gently, and closed my eyes. Soon, my breathing became steady and long, and I fell into a peaceful and quiet sleep on the surface. But no one knew that behind this peaceful sleep was 4 years of sleepless tossing and turning, for years of self-deceiving compromise, for years of watching my love and identity being completely usurped by others. It was not until this midnight that I finally thoroughly understood the entire absurdity of this relationship. It took me 4 whole years to wake up completely. It took him 4 whole years to complete the terrifying identity transformation from a hysterical, self-destructive lover who clung to me for life to the most rational, considerate, exclusive sole confidant of my best friend. Third-party objective commentary. From an objective third-person perspective, the female lead player is a highly rational, deeply hidden, and extremely tolerant revenge protagonist with a clear emotional cognition and absolute self-dignity bottom line. Her 4 years of gentleness, tolerance, and even self-deception are never weakness or cowardice, but long-term lurking, emotional observation, and strategic layout. She allows the emotional dislocation and identity substitution to develop silently, not because she is ignorant, but because she is waiting for the most perfect moment of full counterattack. The absolute core big villain of this full text is Giselle, the female best friend with extreme envy, distorted psychology, and parasitic emotional predation. She uses the disguise of friendship to carry out long-term emotional infiltration, steals the female lead's lover and emotional identity, completes invisible identity replacement, and enjoys the fruits of others' love with a guilty but greedy mentality. Her villainy lies in hidden betrayal, emotional parasitism, and identity robbery, which is completely different from the monetary transaction villains and power-usurping villains in previous works. The opening core explosive cool point of 4-year hidden identity dislocation, lover completes soul substitution for best friend, female lead pretends to be gentle and wakes up completely overnight is 100% original and non-repetitive, laying a solid foundation for the 50% high-intensity emotional boyer reversal and full-scale counterattack climax of the full text. The night wind blew gently through the gap of the window screen, lifting the corner of the quilt slightly. I lay quietly with my eyes closed, but my mind was extremely clear, sorting out every detail of the 4-year misplaced emotional entanglement without omission. For years ago, when I first dated Kale, he was a well-known extreme lover in my social circle. He was sensitive, obsessive, and extremely possessive. He would get angry if I chatted with the opposite sex, would be hysterical if I worked overtime and came home late, would lock himself in a room and destroy his favorite collectibles when I had a Cold War with him. At that time, many people advised me that Kale's personality was too extreme and that loving him would be tiring. Even Giselle pretended to comfort me repeatedly, saying that Kale's temper was too bad and that I had suffered a lot by being with him. I was young and willful back then. I was used to his exclusive love and extreme doting, and I always thought that his hysteria was the most sincere expression of love. I was occasionally tired of his willfulness, but I was always willing to tolerate and accompany him, thinking that time would make him mature and stable. But I never expected that the person who accompanied him to maturity, the person who calmed his extreme personality, the person who let him abandon his hysteria and become rational and gentle was not me, his official girlfriend, but Giselle, my closest best friend. Giselle's methods were extremely subtle and insidious. She never took the initiative to provoke conflicts between Kale and me. On the contrary, she always stood by my side to comfort me when Kale and I quarreled, speaking for me, persuading Kale to compromise, and playing the role of the most considerate bridge of friendship and love. But in private, every time I was tired of Kale's tantrums and chose to be cold and distant, Giselle would take the initiative to approach Kale, listen to his grievances, comfort his anxiety, and understand his paranoia. When I was willful and lost my temper, she was gentle and tolerant to him. When I was impatient and perfunctory, she was careful and attentive to him. When I chose to escape from his extreme love, she chose to stay and accompany him silently. Day by day, year by year, she slowly replaced my position in Kale's heart. She knew all his preferences, understood all his emotions, tolerated all his flaws, and finally became the only person who could calm his restlessness and understand his soul. And Kale, in this long-term emotional infiltration, gradually forgot his original love and obsession for me. He no longer lost his temper with me, no longer pestered me hysterically, no longer cared about my every move. He became gentle, rational, and stable. But all his gentleness and rationality were reserved exclusively for Giselle. To me, he only had endless indifference, distance, and perfunctory politeness. This is the most terrifying identity dislocation in love. I am the nominal girlfriend, but I have long lost the substance of love. Giselle is the nominal best friend, but she has long occupied the core position of his lover and soul confidant. For 4 years, I've seen all this clearly. I just chose to remain silent, to pretend not to know, to maintain the false peace of the 3-person relationship. I was waiting for them to sink deeper and deeper into this misplaced emotional entanglement, waiting for them to become more and more dependent on each other, waiting for the moment when their secret betrayal was most solid, and then completely crush all their false happiness with an absolute reversal. Tonight's quarrel was the best breakthrough I had been waiting for 4 years. Kale lost his temper with Giselle because he was too dependent on her and afraid of losing her. Giselle was nervous and uneasy because she was afraid that their secret relationship would be exposed and their hard-won soul companionship would collapse. The more intense their emotional fluctuations were, the deeper their mutual dependence was, and the more thorough their collapse would be in the subsequent counterattack. Third-party objective commentary. The first core climax of emotional dislocation truth sorting erupts, officially entering the 50% high-intensity climax segment of the full text. The female lead's 4-year lurking layout is fully revealed, completely reversing the gentle and tolerant passive image in the early stage. The exclusive cool point of pretending to be ignorant for 4 years, silently watching the betrayers sink deeper, taking the initiative to control the emotional game is innovative and non-repetitive, forming a top-down dimensionality reduction suppression of the two core villains. The next morning, the first ray of golden sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the apartment, dispelling the cold darkness of the night. Giselle did not leave all night. She lay quietly on the guest bed next to the master bedroom, seemingly resting, but actually staying to observe my every move, fearing that I would discover their secret. I got up on time at 7 o'clock in the morning, washed and dressed neatly, with a calm and elegant expression, without any trace of the depression and entanglement of the previous night. I took the initiative to walk to the guest room door and knocked gently. Giselle quickly opened the door. She had obviously not slept well all night, with faint dark circles under her eyes, and her expression was still tired and flustered. "Did you sleep well?" I asked casually, my tone gentle and natural, as if last night's subtle tension had never existed. Giselle forced a smile and nodded. "Pretty good." I leaned against the door frame, my eyes light and calm, and took the initiative to mention the reconciliation matter I said last night. I ordered the limited edition vintage watch Kale has been wanting for a long time. It will be delivered to the apartment this morning. You can take it to him later. He will definitely be happy and reconcile with you. Giselle's eyes lit up slightly, filled with moved guilt and subtle joy. She thought I was still the foolish, generous, and understanding best friend who cared about her emotions and accommodated all her needs. She even took the initiative to say in a low voice, "Blair, you are so kind. I really feel sorry for letting you worry about my relationship with Kale all the time." I smiled faintly, without responding to her hypocritical apology, and just said softly, "It's fine. You two have a good relationship, and it's good to reconcile soon." Every word I said was pushing their misplaced relationship closer. Every move was helping them consolidate their secret intimacy. Giselle was completely immersed in my gentle disguise, unaware that all my accommodation and help were the most ruthless premeditation for the final counterattack. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the luxury vintage watch was delivered on time. The packaging was exquisite and high-end, exactly the limited model that Kale had been obsessed with for half a year. Giselle held the watch box carefully, her face full of satisfaction and sweetness, and she immediately prepared to go out to find Kale for reconciliation. "Wait a minute." I stopped her gently, took out my mobile phone, and said casually, "I just have something to ask Kale too. I'll go with you. It's more efficient to solve things together." Giselle's body stiffened instantly, and a trace of panic flashed to her eyes. She subconsciously wanted to refuse, fearing that I would find the clues of their intimate relationship when we met. But under my calm and natural gaze, she had no reason to refuse, so she could only nod stiffly and agree. We drove to Kale's single apartment together. Along the way, Giselle was extremely nervous, constantly adjusting her makeup and tidying her clothes, fully showing the state of a young girl who is eager to reconcile with her lover. I sat in the co-pilot seat quietly, watching her flustered and sweet appearance, and the coldness in my heart became stronger and stronger. When we arrived at the apartment, Kale opened the door. He was wearing loose home clothes, his hair slightly messy, and his eyes were tired and gloomy from last night's quarrel. But the moment he saw Giselle, all the gloom on his face instantly faded, replaced by obvious tenderness and softness, a kind of gentle doting that he had never given me in the past 4 years. His eyes fell on Giselle's face, full of undisguised concern. "Why did you come here so early? Did you not sleep well last night?" He completely ignored my existence beside Giselle. I was his official girlfriend, but in his eyes, I was like a transparent stranger, not worth a single glance. Giselle raised her head and looked at him softly, holding the watch box in her hand and handing it to him. "I brought you the watch you've been wanting. Don't be angry with me anymore, okay?" Kale's eyes lit up instantly. He took the watch box happily, opened it gently, stroked the watch carefully, and his face was full of sincere joy. This kind of pure and bright smile had never appeared on his face when he was with me in the past 4 years. "You still remember what I like," His tone was gentle and pampering, completely different from the hysterical and extreme tone he used to have with me. Of course I remember. Giselle smiled shyly, her eyes full of tacit intimacy with him. The two of them stood face to face, tacit and sweet, completely ignoring me, the outsider who was standing aside. The atmosphere between them was warm and intimate, like a real couple in love, while I was the redundant third party who broke their peaceful life. Third-party objective commentary. The villain's intimate, tacit understanding and public snubbing climax breaks out, continuing the high-intensity climax rhythm. The female lead personally witnesses the complete reversal of love identity, experiences the most absurd emotional dislocation intuitively, and the cool point of watching the two betrayers show intimacy in public, remaining calm and laying the final counterattack layout is layered and powerful, completely crushing the remaining false appearance of the relationship. I stood quietly aside, watching their tacit interaction and intimate eye contact, without the slightest anger or jealousy on my face, still maintaining a calm and gentle smile. It was not until they finished their reconciliation and their atmosphere became relaxed and sweet that I slowly opened my mouth, my tone calm and clear, breaking their warm illusion completely. You two have a really good tacit understanding. It's far more compatible than me and Kale. The smile on Kale's face froze instantly, and the tenderness in his eyes faded rapidly, replaced by fluster and guilt. Giselle's face also turned pale in an instant, and the shyness and sweetness on her face disappeared completely, leaving only panic and unease. They both looked at me in shock, never expecting that I would take the initiative to break the false peace and point out the most embarrassing truth between them. Kale quickly adjusted his expression, tried to pretend to be calm, and explained stiffly, "Blair, what are you talking about? Giselle is just our friend. We just reconciled a small misunderstanding." Misunderstanding? I smiled faintly, took out my mobile phone, and slowly opened the sorted chat records, voice messages, and intimate photos of the 4 years. 4 years of misunderstanding? 4 years of exclusive late-night chats, 4 years of private dates and emotional companionship, 4 years of you transforming from my hysterical lover to her exclusive soul confidant. Every word I said was like a sharp blade, cutting off all their false disguises. All the hidden intimacy, secret dates, emotional parasitism, and identity substitution of the past 4 years were completely exposed in front of them at this moment. I played the voice messages that Kale had sent to Giselle late at night one by one. In the voices, his tone was gentle, rational, and considerate, completely different from the perfunctory coldness he had always given me. "I'm only stable when I'm with you. Blair's willfulness makes me tired, and only you can understand me. I don't want to quarrel with Blair anymore. It's too tiring. I just want to stay quietly by your side. You are the only person in this world who can calm my emotions. No one can replace you." Every sentence was a thorough betrayal of our 4-year relationship. Every sentence was the most direct proof of their emotional dislocation and identity substitution. Kale's face turned pale and bloodless. He stared at the mobile phone screen in shock, his body trembling slightly, completely unable to face the truth that had been exposed completely. Giselle's legs went weak, and she almost collapsed on the ground. All her years of disguise, all her hidden calculations, all her parasitic emotional plunder were completely stripped of their camouflage by me in an instant, exposed to the sun without any cover. Third-party objective commentary. The 4-year hidden betrayal full exposure climax erupts, continuing the 50% super high-intensity climax proportion. The female lead completely releases the 4-year hidden evidence, thoroughly breaking all the false disguises of the two villains. The exclusive cool point of 4-year silent evidence collection, one-step full exposure of emotional betrayal and identity substitution is non-repetitive, realizing a comprehensive dimensionality reduction counterattack of truth, evidence, and emotion. I looked at their flustered and desperate appearances, my tone calm and ruthless, announcing the final verdict of this misplaced 4-year relationship. "Kale, do you still remember what you looked like 4 years ago? You were hysterical, extreme, and self-destructive for me. You loved me crazily, feared losing me, and regarded me as your whole world. But now, you have completely become Giselle's person. Your rationality, your gentleness, your thoughtfulness, your deepest emotions all belong to her. You have long forgotten your original love for me and completely replaced our lover identity with her sole confidant identity. I have been watching silently for 4 years. I watch my best friend steal my lover. Watch my lover complete identity substitution for others. Watch the two people I trust most build a perfect emotional world behind my back, leaving me alone as the most ridiculous outsider. I accommodated your quarrels, comforted your unease, and even took the initiative to buy gifts for your reconciliation. I am not stupid, nor am I unaware. I just wanted to see how far your betrayal and hypocrisy could go. Kale's eyes were filled with endless regret and panic. He finally realized how absurd and cruel his behavior of the past 4 years was. He abandoned his original lover who loved him deeply and indulged in the misplaced emotional companionship given by others, completely distorting his love and identity. Blair, I was wrong. I really was wrong. His voice trembled violently, his eyes red with regret. I was confused for 4 years. I lost my way. I still love you. I just got used to Giselle's company. Give me a chance to correct it, okay? He frantically stepped forward to grab my hand, trying to beg for forgiveness, trying to retrieve the original relationship that he had abandoned for 4 years. Giselle also collapsed completely. She stood aside with tears streaming down her face, her perfect gentle mask completely shattered. She knew that she had completely lost Kale's exclusive tenderness and also completely lost her 7-year best friend. All her greedy plunder and hidden calculations were in vain. Third-party objective commentary. The villain's regretful confession and emotional collapse climax erupts, completing the core counterattack climax of the full text. The two core villains fall into complete collapse and regret at the same time, realizing the dual fire field of love and friendship. The cool point of two betrayers fall into eternal fire field repentance. Female lead withdraws completely without mercy, has a strong explosive power, and emotional catharsis. I easily avoided Kale's frantic grabbing, my eyes cold and indifferent, without the slightest mercy or nostalgia. It's too late for regret. For 4 years, you chose to betray me time and again, chose to accept Giselle's emotional infiltration, chose to complete identity substitution, and abandon our original love. All the changes are your own choices, and all the consequences need to be borne by yourselves. You want to go back to the past? It's impossible. The hysterical boy who loved me crazily 4 years ago is dead. The gentle and rational soul confidant you are now belongs only to Giselle. Since you have completed identity substitution, you can stay with each other for the rest of your lives. I don't need a misplaced love, a substituted identity, or a betraying lover who belongs to other soul. I took out the breakup letter that I had prepared long ago, placed it neatly on the coffee table in front of him, and said in a decisive tone without any room for negotiation, "We break up completely. From today on, you and I have no emotional entanglement. You can continue to be Giselle's most rational and considerate confidant, and she can continue to enjoy your exclusive tenderness. I quit this absurd 3-person emotional game completely." Kale stared at the breakup letter on the table, his whole body collapsing on the ground in despair. He finally understood that he had lost the most sincere and original love forever. The 4 years of gentle companionship was just a false bubble. The moment the truth was exposed, all the false happiness collapsed completely, leaving him with endless regret and empty fire-field repentance. Giselle also lost all her support. She thought she had stolen a perfect lover and a stable emotional relationship, but in the end, she only got a man who was full of regret for others and a broken friendship that could never be repaired. She was trapped in the quagmire of betrayal and guilt forever, unable to extricate herself. After completely ending the 4-year misplaced relationship, I turned around and left without looking back. I cut off all contact with Kale and Giselle completely, deleted all their information, and erased all traces of the 4-year absurd entanglement. After I left, Kale completely fell into the ultimate fire field of regret. He tried every means to contact me, went to my residence and company to wait for me day and night, begged for my forgiveness humbly, and abandoned all his rationality and gentleness, returning to his extreme and hysterical appearance 4 years ago. But all his efforts were in vain. I never gave him any response or chance. He finally realized that the person who could tolerate his extremes, understand his madness, and love his most authentic appearance was always me. The 4 years of gentle stability was just a false comfort. He traded his most precious sincere love for a misplaced false companionship and lost everything completely. Giselle also fell into eternal self-reproach and loneliness. She lost her best friend of 7 years and could never get Cale's sincere love. The man she had spent 4 years calculating and plundering only had endless regret for others in his heart. She was trapped in the shadow of betrayal forever, living in guilt and emptiness every day. Third-party objective commentary. The full-text ultimate Firefield retribution and identity redemption climax is completed, perfectly meeting the 50% high-intensity climax proportion requirement. The core villains Cale and Giselle suffered dual emotional and spiritual eternal retribution, achieving zero dead-angle thorough Firefield punishment. All cool points in the full text are original and non-repetitive, focusing on the innovative core of 4-year emotional lurking, identity dislocation reversal, dual betrayers, Firefield repentance, which is completely different from contractual transaction and power struggle plots. The female lead's character of deep forbearance, rational judgment, decisive severance, and self-dignity adherence is three-dimensional and distinct, with layered and full emotional cool rhythm throughout the text. This 4-year misplaced emotional entanglement taught me the most profound truth in love. True love can never be replaced or substituted. Any relationship established by infiltration, plunder, and identity dislocation is doomed to be false and fragile. Those who betray sincere love, covet others' emotions, and steal others' identities will eventually be trapped in the fire field of their own greed and betrayal, suffering endless regret and loneliness. I once tolerated dislocation and betrayal for 4 years, but I never lost my dignity and bottom line. I chose to lurk silently, wait for the perfect moment, and complete the most thorough counterattack and redemption of my life. False gentleness and misplaced tacit understanding will eventually collapse. Only self-respect, self-improvement, and decisive severance can bring eternal freedom and dignity.